back to the Fox Robbins Business Show. Thank you guys for watching. This show is all about developing your very best business ideas. And this is not a brand new show, by the way. We've been around since 2008, I think.
So what, 150?
And something north of 140, 150 episodes. So you can't call us brand new. We've been around for a while.
Anybody our age can't be called brand new under any circumstances.
I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, and the other co-host is the engaging, the spellbinding, the captivating, and magnetic Coach Robbins.
Magnetic. I have a magnetic field around me. Shocking.
And we've lined up a great show. We've got we have a bona fide entrepreneur. I mean, we talk so much about small business. Talk, but what we have is a live one. And you're
a live one, Tommy.
You've heard more stories about Steve Jobs starting a computer thing in a garage. Well, we've got one of them. I hope we have a Steve Jobs on our hands too.
Hope so, yeah.
It's Tom Milkey, a bona fide entrepreneur, and he's going to help us out today, talk about the thrill, but also perhaps the pain and agony. We're trying to get a business going.
The agony.
And so we're going to get started. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great.
And
Tommy, how you doing?
Appreciate it.
Good
Good to see
just
you guys.
as we get started with Tom, I just want to thank him. You wouldn't know unless I told you that he was there at the beginning back in 2008 when Coach and I started the Fox Robbins Business Show, and he was right there with the control center and the cameras and the lighting and all of that stuff, or production stuff of which he's an expert. And but he said, he used to say, he said, I don't want to be in front of the camera, I want to be behind it. So he said, you guys, you sit in front of it and I'll sit behind it and make it happen, which he did. So we thank you for your help in
But now we've
helping us
dragged
get
you out
going.
in front of it.
Now you got to be in front of it.
I'm in the hot seat now.
Yeah, right.
That's right. So we're going to get started. We want to know your organization is Grand Cove Productions.
Grand Cove Productions.
And Coach, we want to get started and find out what this
Tom,
is all
welcome
about.
to the show. Good
Thank
to
you.
see you
Good
again.
to see you too.
Listen, why don't we start with, who's Tom Milkey? I know that, I tell people all the time, if you're going to work at something yourself, you have to be passionate about it. You have to love it because you're going to have to do it every day, all right? Tell us about Tom Milkey's history and how your passion was to start your own business in this field.
Well, it's two parts, I guess. I think about that a lot. If people don't know me and I'm going to visit with them, and I would tell you that I'm definitely a creative person at heart. Have always been musician since I was in my teens.
Yep.
And then always into writing. Didn't realize how much I liked writing until I got into college, and I took every writing class I could in college.
Good.
I was a psychology major, which was a fascination to me. That major was, psych was a major to me because at that time my father was in sales, and I had an interest in doing that, just sort of make ends meet. Thought that would be a steady career for me, and I thought psych would be a good background. I was really glad I chose it.
Yeah.
However, I knew I didn't want to get into a practice of doing that, being a psychotherapist or a counselor of sorts. But more so, I knew that in sales, the sales part of it not only taught me business, but I spent 10 years of it doing sales after school. So
Right.
that was kind of my first career, was really getting just a solid background of business and just taking care of myself. And I had to sort of put my creative stuff on the side and do that.
Yeah,
and so the first part of it was really the practical versus what I really, what was in my heart. But I kept doing what was in my heart on the side. Nights, weekends, I worked in a recording studio.
I tell people all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of people start part-time to see if this is something they can actually do and make a living at, and that's very smart.
Yeah, that's how I started doing it, was really just I got some success in sales where it allowed me the finances to buy the kinds of toys and equipment I wanted. and a very close friend of mine who's still, he's like my uncle today, is out in San Francisco. And I began my career really in San Francisco. That's where it started. I worked in a few large recording studios out there, and one in particular that was right in the middle of the city, and I met several producers, several people in music, and I started engineering at night. So I would be working a sales job during the day and engineering at night.
That's perfect technical background for you to start your own business in it. I tell people all the time, go borrow somebody else's bicycle, have a few accidents, scratch it, learn how to ride a bike before you go buy your own brand new bicycle.
That's true.
And you did just that. You know, you had a couple of accidents, I'm sure, you know, you did, but you learned how to ride the bike. And of course, I'm speaking metaphorically. And then you said, I think it's time for me to go buy my own bicycle.
And it's funny too, I think lots of times when you really love doing something, you're not thinking about the business side of it as much as you are thinking about just the whole process of doing it and doing the best you can at it. And you know, my folks always said, you know, my mom who passed away about 5 years ago, as well as my dad, have both told me, you know, the money comes, you know, you have to do what you love doing.
You do. You got to do it every day. You know, you got to do it. You got to get up in the morning. If you get up in the morning and you're looking in the mirror and you say, "Oh darn, I've got to go to work today," boy, you are doing the wrong thing. Okay? You got to find something you're passionate about, and you have to have the technical background. People start a business with a technical skill, but that doesn't mean they know how to run a business.
No, and you know, this business that I'm in is a mystery business to many people, you know, and I never thought of it that way because it always makes sense to me, because when you do it every day, it makes sense to me. What you do every day makes sense to you guys. But it's funny because some of the things that you do and the things that some other people do, it could be, you know, something like, you know, selling water or selling food or doing some other type of profession. When I sit down next to you and I say it's going to cost you $20 to buy 100 of these, you know, it's plain and simple and it's something you get. But with the video business or the production business, when you start talking about creating something, people's eyes glaze over. They don't understand cost. They don't understand how you determine cost. It's a big mystery business because they don't even have the first clue as to, gee, how does it begin? Does it begin with an idea? Does it start on paper?
This is what you have to explain to them.
And you do. You have a lot of explaining to do to kind of simplify it.
Tell our audience, by the way, what is this business, by the way?
The production business.
Okay.
There you go.
The production business is it's a business of pretty much three parts. You know, you have development. Okay, so that really is where your ideas and your creative side of things comes to fruition. And that might be if you came to me and said, Thomas, you know, I work for this company, I own this company, and my company needs more exposure. We feel like rebuilding some things, and we're looking to build, you know, a new awareness of who we are and a sharper image. Then that's where the conversation begins. You have, you know, the creation of perhaps new logos, new graphics, new things, and then you say, like, if we're talking about video production or audio production, it all starts with an idea, and then that idea gets put on paper, and that's what we call a script. It gets scripted out and timed out, and they are able to look at it and read it and visualize. And if it's a video script, it's a page that's look like it's cut right down the middle. You know, and what I do is I hand that to you and I say, this is what you're going to see, and this is what you're going to hear if it's narrated. And this gives you some kind of visualization of what you're getting, how long it's going to be, and the exact content in it. So you know right ahead of time, before any cameras are turned on, here's what we got. And here's what we're looking at.
Well, to make this business a reality, when you began thinking about it, it necessitated an investment in a studio facility.
Some stuff.
I suppose that you could have a business where you don't have a studio. You're consulting with people, but they have to go somewhere else.
Most certainly, and that's the way.
But you wanted to you wanted to have the tools of production.
Yeah. I guess I'd say that I was lucky enough to have the space and build it halfway for my own use as a musician, and halfway to be able to have it earn some money for my business and benefit my clients as well. Having the studio, having the gear, allows my customers to get more competitive rate where they don't have to go somewhere else. They can do it right in-house.
Right.
Allows me to control the talent a bit more and also contribute to the local economy where I can hire local talent to come in and do the reads versus going to Boston or going someplace else and hiring out a
Hollywood.
studio. But however, this business is primarily rental in many, many ways. Rental of cameras, rental of audio gear, rental of lighting, and it all becomes part of the budget you propose to whatever scope project you're talking about. It could be a $5,000 video or a $500,000 video. It all depends on what scale you want this to be.
But if you were consulting only, it's not going to take a lot of upfront costs. But if you're going to build a studio, you got to put some money on the table. How did you do that? I mean, did you beg, borrow, steal? Did you hold up a bank or rob a gas station, or what did you do?
Well, in my case, this was not separate from my dwelling from where I live. So in that case, my studio is right below where I live. So building it into my home space became part of. Obviously, I said I always wanted this. We're renovating our home at the moment. I've got some downtime. This is an area that I wanted to build out for this. So I purposely had it in my mind. I wanted to build this. And I kind of scoped it out as far as how much money I borrowed to do my renovations and things and scoped it into that. And then did a lot of it myself too. So a lot of it.
Well, it came out of your own pocket. Did you say,
Yes.
did you borrow? Did you also borrow? And from whom?
Yes, I borrowed money because it was all part of money I borrowed as far as, in my case, it was a
renovation of
mortgage
your
because
home.
it's a renovation of my home. So it was a mortgage. But
Right.
in some people's case, it might be a small business loan. It might be a home equity.
Right.
And you could make this investment in somebody else's property, of course, that you're renting. But for me, I felt like right now, good to have it close by. It's benefited me quite a bit.
Right.
But now it's gotten to the point where home is home, business is business,
Right.
And I'm looking into commercial space where I can actually have.
But by moving, you're going to take on overhead, but you do have the revenue stream coming in that you can afford to grow the business by taking on that overhead because it's a risk.
At
It's
the
a risk
crossing
to go
points,
out.
the
Yeah.
pivot thing you're.
There you go, another pivot. There you
Exactly,
go.
and
Always
But you
talking about
didn't.
pivoting.
I was going to say, Tom, it's also fair to say that your business was not location sensitive. I mean, you didn't have to have it in a location.
No.
I don't know. I'm just scratching here, but like I got to be in Plymouth, or I've got to be up in Boston, or I've got to be somewhere else. You could be
At the mall.
You could start. You could get this thing off and running
I could.
by controlling your own property. True.
I most certainly could. I think with anything, the more exposure you have, if you put yourself in a busy location, you're bound to be more exposed, and that's bound to get, I think, help in a lot of cases.
Visibility.
Visibility is good. In my case, I have to be careful of some things too with the kind of business I have, because even looking into commercial space right now of where I want to be, if I'm recording audio, I have to pick and choose carefully where I go because, again, I have to sometimes sacrifice location for, as far as exposure for the proper location. And what I
Right.
mean by that is, in my business, it has to be very quiet. You can't have semi-trucks driving by on Route 28 if you own an audio business, or else you pay the price.
You may not want to be next to the fire station
or the
either, because
airport.
once in a while.
Airplanes and everything else. So you have to
Near
be
the
thinking
airport.
about, and not
Yeah.
everybody's business is like that. They
That's
can
right.
put up with that.
It's a
And
sound
mine is
studio.
very sensitive. So I'm in a quiet neighborhood where I live.
Right.
I'm on private property. That's helped me a great deal as far as being able to conduct
Sure.
sessions and
Right.
and not have it affect the quality of the product you put out. So.
Right.
Who is your target audience? Who are you after for customers? Because as I preach so many times, your primary job number one is to create customers. Who are they? Who's your target?
There's a wide range, but most of them have been, most of the people that have kept me and my business rolling have been corporate type clients.
Yep.
They're the ones that need things like educational videos, promotional pieces, radio advertisements. Another key type customer that's come to me to rent the studio out have been advertising agencies. So again, I can take my producer hat off,
Right.
my creative consultant, or you want to call it a production, what do I want to say, consultant hat off, and I just become a director of photography, and I grab my gear, and if they need me
Right.
for a day,
Right. You
you know,
go.
those kinds of clients hire me as well.
What
So
about the
they're-
music thing? I mean, you're doing you're a music hound.
Not many bands. That's more of a hobbyist type thing, and also, of course, in the market too. Very tough business to make a living in.
It is.
It's not, you've got two things working against you in that. One is being a musician myself. I'm not a flaky guy, but many musicians are. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but that's the personalities you deal with.
Yeah.
And they do things on a different time frame. And again, most musicians that I know that are recording, they've got to get in the right position where they're not even managing their money anymore. I mean, you're really dealing with, if I were thinking of working with bands, on a regular basis, and music, it would be really people who are now being managed by a label and that have a significant budget to be able to put into cutting a CD or album or whatnot.
Right.
And the studio's all set up to do that. My initial experience was doing intricate things like that, not even having the luxury of what I've got in my own place, but having to record all of it in the same room and be able to get a mix where I've got everybody in the same room and I'm in the room too. So I have the luxury now of separating everything out if somebody wants to come in and do it. And believe me, I still to this day love recording music, but it has not become a primary
It's not your primary target. The
source of income.
corporate people
Yeah.
are your primary targets now.
Right.
Speaking of the studio, you gave me some pictures, and I'm throwing them up on the screen. Here's a view.
Yes.
Of the studio.
That's
yes?
one of the that's one of the main that's one of the main rooms there, main live room we call it.
Speaking of music, you got your guitars.
Got a few guitars there. That's a Rickenbacker there I got, and a Guild and a Les Paul there. Those are three of my favorites.
Les Paul.
I like.
What do we got here?
This is a shot looking from the live room into the control room. Control room is a diamond-shaped room. All the treatments, it's about 67% treated, which is perfect for mixing and getting, this is for any kind of sonic.
This stuff. Did you hire a contractor? I mean, a carpenter,
sound company?
a guy to come in and install this stuff. You do it with
I did all those sound treatments.
Little fingers.
I did all those sound treatments myself. I built all of them. I learned how to build them. They're pretty easy to make. Most of the stuff you see there, as far as the finish work, I did all the sheetrock work in it. The only thing I didn't do the plastering and some of the final finish work the carpenter did, but I laid it out and we built it. So that's looking in through 2 panes of glass. So they are, every room in the studio is a separate room and that none of the walls touch. So if you want to build it right and have complete isolation, that's the right way to build it.
Well, I just wanted our audience to see. Imagine your bleeding, sweaty fingers, on this thing. Piece by piece, inch by inch, you put this thing together. It
went together quickly, but I had it all planned and I did a lot of the work myself on it. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as they say.
It's also called bootstrapping, saving some money.
Yes,
exactly.
Here's another view. What do we got?
So if you were in the control room now, this is an older picture of the studio. This is sort of when I started and we've got looking out into the live room there. So you're looking through 2 panes of angled glass. Yeah.
Oh, it's two.
They angle, so you've got 2 separate walls.
Yeah.
So they're angled so that nothing bounces off, and if it does,
directly.
it's still bouncing, but it's bouncing up.
Right.
This is where I would sit and do mixing. To my left here is a walk-through isolation booth for somebody doing voiceover. And voiceover is a little different than singing. If somebody were singing, you'd put them in the live room so they'd have some of the room's reverberance, some of that reflection. You want that. It's really good. But if you're doing something like a book, a storybook, or an audio book or something, you want 100% treatment.
Clarity.
And that's what that ISO booth is, walking through, and it's 100% treated, so it's real quiet.
And what do we got here?
This is a more recent picture of the studio now. So new monitors, these are powered, JBLs that are tuned to the room. This is me just doing some mixing.
That looks like a keyboard.
It is. There's a keyboard there in front, which is actually a MIDI controller for music, and this is this is my this is a new digital board. So now there's no interface now between this and the computer. So this board actually plugs straight to the computer, and all audio that's analog going in is now turned to digital signal within this mixer and sent directly to the computer and then sent back.
Good.
Hey, just out of curiosity, I think the audience would like, can you tell, if just imagining only, but if this were sold, what's it worth? What's a studio like this worth? What kind of money are we talking about?
Well, if it were built on its own, you were talking about all the gear inside, it was probably, I look at that whole investment plus gear as probably a $60,000 or $70,000.
Right.
If everything inside it were being sold too, would be somewhere in that
I know
neighborhood.
if for some reason you put it on the market, I mean, you went to your real estate agent and put it on the market. Well, of course, it's part of your house, so you'd be selling.
Just the equipment, yeah.
But the equipment itself, we were probably talking about $40,000 at least in gear and instruments and things like that make it all run, software, computers. This
So
is
Barry-
This is a mixing device.
That's my board there.
So-
Yep.
So what we talk about in business is a barrier to entry. Well, the barrier to entry is, look, I got to pony up about 60 grand to get into this business in a proper way.
Yep.
Right.
And in my case, I had a lot of this gear, but nowhere to put it. In San
Yeah.
Francisco, if you guys have ever been to that city, you're talking
been to
about,
San Francisco.
you're fighting for every square inch. My friend had a studio, so most of my gear was crammed between my very small condo where I was living and
Right.
his studio.
Yeah.
And most of it lived at his studio because
Yeah.
that's, of course, where we held sessions and things. But when I moved, I said, someday I'm going to build a space
Right.
where I can put all my gear.
Right,
So
where
I
you
had
have
it.
the space and it doesn't cost you $400 a square foot.
That's right. That's right. And so all the gear was ready to go in it. It was a matter of me building the space, So it was definitely a journey, but I'm really glad I did it.
Good.
People love coming into it.
Yep.
When they do walk into it, they don't really feel like they're on Cape Cod.
Yeah,
They
right.
feel like they're in a...
So you're in the process now of taking the next step in the growth of your revenue and the
Yeah.
growth of your business, and that would be you're looking at enough revenue and a revenue potential to go ahead out and lease some space and now build that out
Yes.
and invest in that so that you can do more business, attract more clients, and have more visibility than sitting in the basement of your house.
That's the idea. I
Yeah.
mean, the idea is, what can I offer my clients now?
Right.
Other than just saying, hey, look, I'm a producer that does audio and video. What can I do
It's a
for
me
you?
too.
It's
attitude.
more about writing
What
than it ever has
is
been.
your competitive advantage and differentiator?
Got it.
Don't be another Me Too business.
Right.
What makes Tom Milkey different from his competitor? That's what you're trying to tell. And what is the benefit to that customer, which should be important, that the customer says, I would rather give my money to Tom Milkey rather than to ABC Studios or XYZ Studios. What's your competitive advantage? What makes you different? And that's what you're out selling. And of course, you're a salesman at heart, so perfect.
And the story I'm telling people is, I'm a creative firm,
Yeah.
probably will be the only creative firm on Cape Cod with in-house service.
Right.
Well,
There
I
you
was
go.
going to ask you that. Did you, even back when you started Grand Cove going, did you look at competition? Say, look around you. Say within a 50 or
SWOT
50 or 100 mile
analysis.
swath, and say
Yes.
who else is out there and where do I fit?
Yeah.
For the audio side of things, I did. For the video side of things, at first, at the very beginning,
Yeah.
the studio took on a role of really assisting me in my business because it was there. So, the business kind of took foothold through video. So I was doing video business before really the
Right.
radio side started kicking in.
Right.
By doing that and by writing and developing for companies, I was able to get it done more efficiently, and
Right.
I knew what the video market was like and what people were charging out there because I learned it.
Right.
And that's kind of where I got engaged. Well, what are other guys charging for their time to
Right.
be out there? What kind of jobs am I getting? The bigger the jobs got, the more I could afford the better equipment.
Yeah.
The better, and it all was full circle. Now I'm getting to a point where again I've got to invest in another cinema package.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
it's going to be too much.
To
or will
grow
it
the
be?
business.
But you
Right.
have to do it.
Right,
You
you
have to stay current, and that's the toughest part is that balance.
Absolutely.
But you think, but the business is out there. You're not doing this on spec in a way.
The business is
you
there.
think-
It's extremely competitive.
Mm.
It's you never know. Some people's business, it could be like examples, contracts where you have, I'm going to give you a year of my business. It's going to cost you this much a month, and it could be something like a disposal business, or it could be something where you're talking about a club where somebody's paying, and you know what your revenue stream will come in based upon membership or a contract.
Right.
In my case, my model has to start looking like that more and more if I
Right.
want to grow.
Right.
Right now, what it's been is I'll get huge amounts of work and then nothing at all,
Yeah.
then huge amounts of work, then nothing at all, and it's a very up and down. It can be a very up and down thing.
Right.
Are you, I mean, the whole business right now is you.
Correct. In
There's-
some cases. In some
Is
cases.
there aren't other people, you don't have, do you have employees? I mean, or do you have,
At this point, project manager. It's not a direct employee of my company. My
Independent
company.
contractor coming in.
My
yeah,
company's
as
consisting of
needed.
independent contractors
Yeah.
as needed, and they're going to be needed very soon as things grow, because my clients are starting to expect that I will do more than just this. It's really more me sitting in a creative seat.
Very good.
are you concerned, a little bit concerned, you're gonna start training somebody or trying to bring somebody in on the business or, I mean,
Yeah, when it's all in phases as it begins to grow, and I feel the demand and I feel the heat.
Right.
I'll know when it's time for me to say,
That's
hey,
right.
look, I need to bring an assistant.
Right.
And this and this, and also not have an ego, so I can admit I don't know this part. Or bring somebody in who does know it.
Right.
Everybody wins. You
Yep.
know. So
Absolutely.
well, Tom, thank you very much.
Tom,
thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
Yeah.
This is,
Appreciate it.
Tommy,
Thank
good to see you again.
this is
Good
good,
to see you too.
this is good stuff for our audience is, I'm just thinking, what, lots of people read in the paper, see magazines and hear talk about, the quote entrepreneur,
Right.
But did you ever see a live one?
That's a live one.
And, we got ourselves a live one here.
I'm glad it.
But it's very helpful, and you don't know the people in the audience who are watching you, can learn, from what you tell us and your following your footprint, So thank you very much for watching Fox Robbins. Feel free to send us any comments at foxrobbins@gmail.com, and we will see you guys next time.